Johnnies are back, man. The Garden is rocking. They beat up on Marquette last night. They are in first place in the Big East by, I believe it is a game now, right, over Creighton. And they have UConn coming up on Friday. I'll be honest. It's been a long time since I've been this excited, looking forward to a game this much for UConn that wasn't like an NCAA tournament postseason game. St. John's, UConn, Campbell Pavilion, $2 beer nights. We want UConn. You heard those chants last night, Fana. Tell me about Rick Pitino.
Why would they want UConn?
Well, because they're 11-1 in the Big East for the first time since 1984-85. Mm-hmm. You'd have to go back to the days of Chris Mullin, Walter Berry, Mark Jackson, and, of course, Lou Carnesecca to go back to a period of time when St. John's was 11-1 in the league and 15-1 in their last 16 games. They have not started a year 20-3 since 1986. We're talking a decade before I was born. This is amazing what they're doing and what Rick Pitino is doing. When he took this job, we thought maybe he can get St. John's back into relevance, and they'll make tournaments. And we'll see how far it goes. Well, maybe that one year they could be the dark horse. They're more than a dark horse. They're one of the nation's best teams. They are elite defensively. They have a Houston light about them, the way that they swarm you. They just get after you. They're up in you from the moment you get off the bus. They play a New York City way. Last night, they out-rebounded Marquette 50-28. 50-28 and 21-5 on the offensive glass. They're bludgeoning teams there. They're top three with Duke and Auburn in second half scoring margin. But more than anything, it's the magic of Pitino. It's a weeknight at Madison Square Garden, a 6:30 game. There's close to 17,000 people in the building. The Knicks get huge crowds, but these are raucous college crowds that are going wild and bonkers and crazy. Rick walks out to Empire State of Mind with Alicia Keys and Jay-Z blaring. He's in his ironclad suit, and you just get the vibe that something magical is happening, and it is right now. And I can't help but think, guys, Lou Carnesecca passes in November, and he's got to be upstairs right now, smiling ear to ear, thinking about his St. John's Red Storm, getting all the back pages. If you look at every back page of the New York headlines this morning, it's all Johnnies all the time. It's special for New York. It's huge for the Big East. And in this climate of college sports right now, to have a brand like St. John's permeating through. That was really impressive last night, both in crowd, in game, and in the way that they just fight you off.
T.O.?
They got a lot of beast on that team, and they don't shoot it worth a darn, but dadgummit, they offensive board. That's what it comes down to. They're great defensively, and the dude's bored. They overwhelm you. That's about as simple as it gets. Like Pitino has always coached defense a certain type of way. They get up, they press you, they make you uncomfortable, and then on the back end of that defense, they rebound. It's awesome to see the excitement. Yesterday, you did a video, Fanta, where the mascot for St. John's was like behind you and messing around. Like you can just feel the excitement of St. John's being good again in New York. You can understand, you can feel it through the screen. You said it permeates throughout the country. No argument here. But they're really good. They're really good. And my God, about time. New York deserves it.
It's amazing how good they are when they are by far the worst three-point shooting team in the Big East. They are shooting 23% from three in the Big East. And it kind of works because the way that this team is built is to be able to create as many possessions as they possibly can, right? Like their idea, the concept is essentially we're not going to be efficient when we score, but we're going to get so many more opportunities to score than you are that you're not going to be able to beat us. Between offensive rebounds, the turnovers that they force, the fact that they don't really turn the ball over all that much. It's what is it? Quality over quantity, right? They're definitely quantity over quality at this point. And I'll tell you this, man, like if you're playing against them and you're sitting there and you have like a normal sized backcourt and a normal sized perimeter, and it's they got Kadari Richmond on your 6'1" point guard, and they got RJ Lewis on your 6'4" shooting guard, and then they got Aaron Scott on your 6'6", your perimeter player. And then, oh, by the way, Zuby Ejiofor, who is 6'9" and 250 pounds of solid muscle, can switch out and guard point guards if he needs to. Like, what are you doing? How do you score against this team? How do you it's a lot of fun to watch, man. It feels like a nice old school throwback Rick Pitino. You know who they remind me of? It's not the same kind of build, but the last Louisville Big East team in 2012, when they won the Big East tournament and they made the Final Four. They had Russ Smith and Peyton Siva. Like, they get out and they guard you and they pressure you and they make life miserable. And they're bigger and more athletic than that team, Fanta, but it's the same kind of concept.
Yeah, it sure is. They just defend relentlessly. And in this day and age of college basketball, there's just not many coaches that are getting their teams to play this hard. And he gets his team to play so damn hard. They're not even that deep. I mean, in bench points, they're in the back half of the country. They don't get much from their bench, but they just find ways. They're so well conditioned. This is the Kadari Richmond is just on a different level right now. I mean, 18, 11, and 8 last night, and he drove them throughout the game. Ejiofor, relentless motor. RJ Lewis has taken that step. I just think that when you look at this story, right, T.O., you think about the story. Rick Pitino, 72. Terrence, 5-6 years ago, could have been it.
Yeah.
Could have been it. And, then Iona gives him a shot. He was in Greece. He could have finished up his career in Greece and retired and went off into the sunlight. The fact that he has been able to rewrite his story in the city that never sleeps, the city that he's from, with a brand that has needed a resurrection for so long, the folk hero, the legend of Pitino, it just takes on a new life here. And I think it's really interesting, Rob and Terrence, because he has gotten the opportunity to have the last say. And I think he's still got several more years left in coaching. I absolutely do. But he's gotten this doorway to say, I'm going to have the last word in my career. And
you know what it is? You know what it is, John?
What he's done with this team is just, it's magical, man.
You know why? Like, we've seen, Leonard Hamilton and Jim Larinaga and Tony Bennett and Coach K and like all these guys retire because they couldn't embrace the portal and NIL. And Rick Pitino's leaning all the way into it. Like, Rick Pitino I feel like he loves this idea where his guys can get paid and they can act like professionals and they can go out there and they don't have to pretend like, oh, by the way, like, you got to go to class, you got to do this, he's leaned all the way into it. He's embraced it. He's embraced the lifestyle. He understands what that level of pomp and circumstance kind of entails, right? I think, T.O., tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but I would make the argument that in the modern era of college basketball, so not including John Wooden in this conversation, he is the greatest coach that we have seen in the sport, in the history of the sport, right? Since 1985, basically since the tournament expanded, he's the best coach that we've seen. I don't know if there's someone that has been better at covering eras, at finding ways to be able to win specific basketball games, at being able to put together teams on the floor that can do things like win a national championship that don't have 27 NBA players on the roster. I just, look at what he's done at every stop that he's been at. I think Rick Pitino's I will call him the GOAT, T.O.
That's huge. Him and Coach K.
Mm-hmm.
Might want to throw Roy in there because Roy had a bunch of NBA role players. He didn't necessarily have a bunch of superstars. Yeah, I think it's that three. He's fantastic. I think there's not really a better way for Pitino to exist than, hey, I can pay players, but it's still college.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not 82 games, so I can still impose my style of play that I want. So it's kind of like pro sports, not 82 games, so I can't kill them kind of deal. I think the NBA, when he was the head coach in the NBA, like, it's hard to press and mix it up and be that physical and that hard playing for 82 games. It's almost impossible. But at the same time, now especially now, because we're talking about St. John's 20-3. Those guys are just balls to the wall every single possession. And we talked about, or you said, well, they're the worst shooting big team in the Big East. I keep going back to this. What percentage of possessions are they scoring on, as opposed to what their actual shooting numbers are? Because their offensive rebounding in conference, their offensive rebound 36.3% of their misses. So you look at, I think it's just the perfect mixture of, I can impose the style of play that I know is successful. I can get these guys to absolutely play the absolute hardest they can, and they're still getting paid. So it's a perfect role for Pitino. Go ahead, John.
One note, I believe I'm right in this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard this last night. Points per 100% possessions.
Okay.
Since the Big East reformed, the top team in the league of any team in the conference was Villanova at about 95 total. St. John's is at 87. This St. John's team.
Yeah.
So they're substantially better than what was previously the best team since Big East reconfiguration.
You're talking about defensively, right?
Yeah, defensively. This is an elite defensive team. Yep. And then to your point, Terrence, they just bully you. The amount of scrums, it's like a rugby game in there sometimes, like underneath the basket where the ball's just popping around. And then Richmond's got magnetic hands. He could just float it up and in. Lewis does the same thing. They don't stop, and they wear you out. You don't always see it in the first half. Marquette got worn down as the game went on. And I'm a little bit concerned about Marquette right now because I just don't know if they have – I don't know if they have enough. I wish they had maybe, taken a transfer or two. But Cam Jones, he's fighting it right now. He's really struggling to shoot the basketball efficiently. And part of that is because he doesn't have a ton of help.
Yeah, it looks like the legs have kind of caught up with them a little bit. To me, they look a little bit tired. To your point on the stat about defensive efficiency, Fana, it's 87 points per 100 possessions they're giving up right now. To put that into context, last year, national champion UConn, number 4 defense in all of college basketball, best defense in the Big East, gave up 99 points per 100 possessions in league play. So that kind of puts it into context there.